So an interesting thing happened earlier this week. Yes, there was a Nintendo Direct, and we've talked a lot about that the past couple of days. But I actually want to focus on news that did not come in our Nintendo Direct, whether you're from Europe or the United States. I want to talk about Assassin's Creed Odyssey, because Assassin's Creed Odyssey brings up an interesting test case for cloud games, I guess is the way to put it. Cloud gaming and the ability to play games on a platform like Switch that might not otherwise be possible through streaming over the internet. Now, I know, it's a controversial topic for many people. They're worried about streaming taking over physical and all this stuff. I get it. But for those who aren't aware of what's happening, in Japan's Nintendo Direct, one of the big announcements was that Assassin's Creed Odyssey is indeed going to be launching in Japan through the cloud. So just like Resident Evil 7, you will be able to stream Assassin's Creed Odyssey directly to your Switch if you are in Japan. Now, why Japan? Well, one, you need a test case, and Japan's a great test case because Japan has a very, very good internet infrastructure. That's something that a lot of people outside of Japan might not know about, but high-speed internet is everywhere in Japan, easily accessible, free in many locations, and thus it makes it a great candidate that, yeah, a large chunk of Switch owners there are probably going to have high enough speed internet to stream Assassin's Creed Odyssey to their Switch, maybe even at a coffee shop, let alone at their house. Now, obviously, Assassin's Creed Odyssey's main appeal is not going to be in Japan. The game is based in Greece. It's one of those things that, yeah, it'll have that appeal in Europe, and it has the appeal out here in the United States, but it's not necessarily like a top seller for Japan. So I doubt they expect the numbers for Assassin's Creed Odyssey to be well in Japan, or to do well. But they needed to test this because I think Ubisoft and Capcom and other companies looking at this are considering ways to bring this kind of service out here to the West, to more of us that would be interested in these games on Switch in a form where, yeah, maybe we could only do it at home if you have fast enough internet, but you could still do it and still play these games and not need to buy another platform, whether it's a PC, whether it's an Xbox or a PlayStation, to play some of these games. And from what we are hearing from reports, it has taken very little resources from Capcom and Ubisoft to make Resident Evil 7 and Assassin's Creed Odyssey, respectively, run through this method. So it's easy to implement and cheap, which makes justifying making this a possibility on Switch even more viable. Now, obviously, there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be in place. It's being ran on servers. The servers need to be close enough and locally located enough for people to be able to stream it well, meaning I'm in Wisconsin, so we need servers in the Midwest, we need servers on the East Coast and West Coast as well, South and North, all that stuff. Same for Europe, you need servers maybe even in every single country. So it is a little bit of an expensive investment to at least get the server aspect set up, but the act of actually getting the game to run on the cloud seems very viable. So I am interested to see how this evolves, and I'm of mind that I'd rather have games than not. I think I can speak for everyone in saying we'd obviously rather have Assassin's Creed here in a physical and or digital or both version running natively on our system. I think all of us would like that. And I've talked at length in the past about how technically any video game could run on Switch. But reality is, a lot of sacrifices need to be made with a lot of current generation games, especially from the AAA space, to run on Switch, and some companies might not be okay with those sacrifices. So this gives them an alternative method. And while you might not support this, you might not agree with it, you might not want to stream this game, reality is we're not getting Assassin's Creed Odyssey. We're not getting it through any other known method. So the only way we're going to get to play this game on Switch is through streaming. And honestly, I'd rather have a chance to play a game than not. And if the service works really, really well, I'm all for it. Now, I obviously think they're experimenting with pricing models. We know that Resident Evil 7 did like a rent by the hour kind of system, rent by the day to play it. Assassin's Creed Odyssey is a little different. It's you spend $60 like you normally would for the game, and you get to play it for 2 years, and then you got to decide if you want to re-up. I don't know if the re-up is going to be $60. We're talking 2 years in the future. Sounds like a very experimental path. You have one person offering hourly rentals, another person saying, hey, $60, play for 2 years. And maybe they'll also offer other ways to get it as well. Like, hey, if you want to try it for a week, it's only $10 or something. It's a very experimental thing, and that's why they're doing it in a smaller country, but a well-infrastructured country to run something like this in Japan, where Japan will be the ideal infrastructure, internet-wise, to run this and use your test case, and then you start to spread it out to other places before you bring it to the big markets like us here that might be more interested in playing something like Assassin's Creed Odyssey on Switch. Now, obviously, you lose some of the novelty of playing it on the go, because chances are when you're on an airplane, even if you have airplane internet, that's not fast enough to stream it. Chances are when you're in the car, on the bus, on the train, even if there is Wi-Fi available, it's not going to be fast enough. Stream it from your phone, not going to be fast enough. It's going to have to be when you're at home. You're going to have a high-speed internet connection, probably at least a 30 gigabyte down connection. 30 megabyte down connection. I'm rocking like a 400 down and a 20 up situation, 30 up situation. So my internet's plenty fast enough to do a streaming like service. If I was running the PlayStation streaming system in here, it would work just fine with my internet. But not everyone's like that. And I think when people bring up that we're not ready for something like this, I mean, reality is there's a lot of people that don't have fast enough internet to even play online multiplayer games. So should online multiplayer games not exist? Obviously, that's not the case. If anything, systems like this should be encouraged, not just from this space, and obviously we've seen with like Netflix and stuff, but we should just see more streaming stuff pushed forward, because what happens when you have more demanding things of your internet speeds, it forces internet networks to get better, to install better lines, to get those fiber connections. I'm not even running on fiber. Get those fiber connections out to more people. And while that's already slowly growing, maybe something like this, not just this, it would need to be more than this. Xbox has been talking about pushing a streaming platform. If Nintendo and Xbox and all these third-party companies are kind of pushing this, it could lead to this infrastructure growing faster and faster, which ultimately is a benefit to everyone. Now, the long-term concern with streaming games is obviously the lack of physical games on the shelf, or ownership of games, and buying even a digital copy. And I understand those concerns, but that's a battle for another day. Because right now, Assassin's Creed Odyssey isn't replacing anything on Switch. It's either this is how you get the game, or you don't get it at all. And it's not because of we're trying to be mean to you. It's because the sacrifices we need to make this game run natively on Switch is just not worth it to them. It's too much. Running at sub HD is probably not something they are willing to accept in 2018. And I get it. Just because it's worked okay for Wolfenstein 2 and Doom doesn't mean that's going to be okay and work for every game out there. And so I think we need to allow these individual companies to make these decisions. And obviously, with how cheap it is, streaming could become more and more popular. But I also think, as we've seen with certain games on Switch, there's still a point to bring a physical copy and digital copy, because it could also sell extremely well. So I don't think the physical medium's going anywhere. I don't think the digital medium's going anywhere. I don't think everything's being replaced by game streaming. But I do think this is a good conversation to have, and I'm curious what you guys think about this. Obviously, it's tough because none of us can actually play Resident Evil 7 and Assassin's Creed Odyssey on our Switches. I know I've even attempted to stream Resident Evil 7 from because there was a free trial from Japan to here. There's so much distance there that it's just an unstable mess. You need the servers to be local. So that's not a good judge of how well Resident Evil 7 worked, or how well Assassin's Creed Odyssey worked. Obviously, when they showed it in the footage, it looked great. But that's in an ideal situation, in a pre-set up advertising test. Don't even know if that was real footage running on Switch. It could be juxtaposed onto the screen as they've done in the past in commercials and advertisements. So, I don't know. You guys let me know what you think about this. I am all for this. If this is the path to get Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed and Kingdom Hearts 3 and all these other games in some sort of playable form on Switch where we otherwise would not get those options, I think that's great. And it also can help, quote-unquote, future-proof the Nintendo Switch, because whether there's a Switch Pro or Switch 2 coming, when PlayStation 5 and Xbox 2 hit, regardless of what Nintendo does, they're using mobile technology. It's not going to be close to the level that those consoles can do. But if they can make that not matter, at least when you're playing at home, that's great. All we need then is just more balance, right? If we get all those awesome third-party games, we also need some third-party games that we could take with us, like NBA 2K. We also need Nintendo to keep delivering the goods so we have other games to play with us on the go. And while we could argue these games take away some of the novelty of playing on the go, remember, Nintendo still advertises this as a home console, as a true hybrid, and in this case, this service would be for when you're playing at home. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, Nintendo's charging us $20 a year for a Nintendo Online Network that your reality is you're only using when you're at home anyways. So if Nintendo could charge us for something you use at home, I don't really blame third parties for exploring that either. And I think they're actually more justified in why they're doing it. Anyways, let me know your thoughts on this. I know it's a very controversial topic, but I do want to have an extended conversation about this. Maybe it's something we can bring up in a future podcast episode. I'm very, very interested in seeing where this technology can go in the future and how viable this could be. Not so much, it's not going to happen this year, but maybe next year we can start seeing these companies bring these games to the West through a cloud-based service and figure out what's going to be an acceptable way to charge us for that service. Anyways, I'm Nathaniel Rovachance from Nintendo Prime, and if you like this video, you know what to do. And if you dislike the video, hit that dislike button, subscribe for more content, and I'll catch all of you guys in the next one. Yes.